Hi, I'm Kristen Griego with Griego Mouthpieces, and recently I had Chris Davis, a professional trumpet player from Chicago, Illinois, visit, and we were doing some maintenance on his Edwards X13 trumpet, and we started talking about things, and he goes, "We need to do a video." Now, Chris Davis has a YouTube channel which is Trumpet Lessons HQ, so you can find him on YouTube, and he has an interesting aspect. He helps comeback players. And we work with a lot of musicians that after 20, 30 years decide to come back and start either playing trombone or trumpet. And so it was interesting. We decided to shoot a video. As we were, originally it was going to be for Edwards, and for his, we did a separate one for Chris's YouTube channel. But then listening back, there was a lot of content. And so we decided to cut and make 3 videos. And so that's why Chris isn't in this intro for Griego Mouthpieces. There's a lot of great information in this video about endurance, how to work through some things, and really listen. And if you can, you'll glean a lot of information that will help you as a player, whether it be trumpet, trombone, tuba, it doesn't matter. Any brass player, I think, can benefit from these videos that we're doing. And so share them with your friends, do all the business, and thanks for watching. Now, Chris and I go way back. We've known each other probably 17, 20 years.
Yeah, thereabout.
And we were both much younger back then.
Yes, sir.
And maybe a few less kids.
Yes, sir.
You know.
Yes, sir.
But it's been great. I've enjoyed watching your YouTube channel and watching that develop and grow. Now, tell me a little bit about your channel.
I help comeback trumpet players. I teach them what to practice and how to practice so they can take the stage with confidence.
We work a lot with players that are, I hear this where I used to play in high school and I loved playing and I want to get back into it. And so what's the first thing you tell them to do?
Well, people come to me with different problems. Really, it's the same problem, but it manifests in different ways. So some things that people say is, I've been practicing for 3 months, 2 years, and I'm not getting better anymore. Or they might say I have low endurance, or my range is limited. So those are the main problems people come to me with.
So how do you work through those with people?
Just listen, just listen. We're musicians. We've been playing for most of our whole lives. We have so many teachers along the way, and we have the personal experiences. So when I hear someone really quick, you can identify what the issue is and help them. Now,
I find a lot of times with players, they're trying, which is the main issue.
Good point.
And when
that's a great point. Great point.
A lot of times when they're playing, or a person is playing for you, even a lesson or in a performance, they're trying. Which we as humans, we equate that to almost like working out. Like a physical, it has to be hard because I want to show you that I'm trying.
That I did some work.
And I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And so that amount of flexure in the sound comes through as tension.
True. That's correct.
That's how I hear it. How do you diagnose that?
What you're talking about, I say allow things to happen instead of making things happen. And that's, that can be misunderstood as I don't need to work. I don't need to put in time. But that's not what it means.
Yeah.
So my way of saying what you're describing is show up to work, just put in the time, and know that the time you put in is going to transform you. It's going to transform your body. So the way I teach is our body's the primary instrument. So we have to show up, put the practice in, and over time, our body will adapt for trumpet playing.
Interesting. And now, so I ride bicycles. Anybody that knows me, I love to ride. And I didn't for 2.5 years with my back issue that I had.
Okay.
And as I got back into it, I had endurance issues. And I just quit worrying about that. And I started I called it TIS, time in saddle. And I would just ride.
That's good.
And the more time I put in, guess what? The endurance got better.
That's right.
And I was doing group rides, and at first I was getting dropped from the C-level guys at a 16 mile an hour pace. But after a period of months And from last year to this year, I was with the B riders. Then I was sticking with them the whole ride, and then at the front. And then now I've gone to the A ride, and I actually did my first A ride and finished with them, which for me was a big accomplishment because from 2 years ago, I could barely ride a bike without, because I had some physical things, and I was just worried about endurance.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is exactly what I was doing to rehab my body. So if you're essentially coming back from not playing for decades, it's just going to take time.
Correct. And so I try to make sure that the student is practicing the right thing along the way, because a couple of things can happen. Something that I see is someone might say, they come up against resistance, right? And they'll say, this is too hard, and then they won't continue. Sometimes I have to listen and watch and say, oh no, you can go further, keep going. Sometimes people need that.
Because they're uncomfortable at that, whatever
that point of resistance, yeah. And sometimes the opposite is true. So they might be trying too hard and they say, hey, you can let up. So that's why a teacher is really important.
Absolutely. To have someone you trust to guide you through
That's right.
all the pitfalls.
Yeah.
Now, I have to ask you a question, because this is, for me, I try not to make everyone sound the same when they come here for a fitting, for a trumpet or trombone or whatever it is.
Yep.
Now, my question to you, do you think that everyone has, I call it natural sound,
Okay.
where their resonating cavity, lip structure, chest cavity, height, lung capacity, all those, not lung capacity as far as, I don't think of lung capacity as a deterrent for any player. If you're short or tall, it doesn't matter to me, but the sound will be different because the lung capacity gives you the size of the piano, if you will, the resonating chamber.
That makes sense. I never considered that.
Now, if you have a shorter player now, and then the amount of tension that the body is under will clamp down on the sound versus letting the body resonate in a more free way.
Wow, that's true.
So do you feel that we all have a sound that we model, but I often question if that's healthy. Because you're trying to be something you're not.
That phrase right there. So I say, your sound is the audible manifestation of your soul.
Yeah.
Think about
100%.
that.
Absolutely, 100%. I agree with that. That's fantastic.
So in that sense, so your soul is your fingerprint. That's your spiritual fingerprint. So in other words, you're one of a kind.
Yeah.
So in one sense, we need to listen to others to model. So we know what a good sound is.
Yeah.
But then there's a point where you're like, this is me.
Yeah.
And this is who I am.
And being okay with that.
And being okay with that. I was going to say that because now this is like a more spiritual thing where you just must be, some people just simply are not comfortable with who they are for whatever the reason is.
And that will come through in their
And
playing.
that comes out in the sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's truth serum. Sound is truth serum for me. And I can tell a person's...
So that's a good way to put it too.
I can tell a person's personality by how they're playing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And you have to be aware of this as a performer, because sometimes you may not be in the correct mood to portray that. And for me, what a professional musician is the person that can have strife, whatever in their life at that moment, but they hit the switch, they walk on stage, and the audience does not know, and they can portray the correct emotion and sound for that moment.
Yeah, that's good.
I mean, that's the big difference for me, rather than students, a lot of times they're trying to impress or trying to show you they know how to do it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Yeah.
That's interesting. The spirituality, but I've always connected the two without the same terminology, but yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of sound, there's two, the way I think of it is two parts. And one is physical, because we have to know how to play the instrument. That's the physical part. And then the spiritual is the listening, the imagination. You know, when you listen, you should also continue to think about sound when you're not actively listening, when you're doing other things. And that's part of the spiritual part too. So we need both. I don't know which we need more of, I don't know. But we need to do both.
I think it has to be healthy.
Yeah.
I also work with players, and you've heard this too, where they're like, I just had a player yesterday call back and said, oh, Kristen, I haven't talked to you in a few years. I got really dark and I quit playing. And now I'm back and I made a mistake. Quitting.
Yep.
And we have to be able to pursue music through everything.
Yeah.
And pursue music more than anything. And what I mean by that is you can't get caught up in one deficiency that it ruins everything for you.
Correct.
And you have to be able to have that joy from music.
So I want to say something about that. You said don't get caught up in one deficiency that it ruins everything. That's exactly right. So I teach that everything's connected.
Yeah.
Because it is. So if someone came to me and said, hey, I'm having a real hard time with fill in the blank, with range, so what I discover is there's no balanced approach to practice. So they'll focus on that one problem area. They may be good at it for a short amount of time, but it comes at a cost. Everything else suffers. Even the one thing you were practicing, it's good for a short period, and then it also suffers, and then you're not doing anything well.
Yeah.
So I help people with a balanced approach to practice.
Microdosing.
I guess so.
Microdosing, Amisher, articulation, and just little bits to bring the whole puzzle together.
That's true. Yeah, I had a problem. One of the weakest parts of my playing was multiple tonguing. It still kind of is, but I come a long way with it. And so I had a teacher, and he introduced the Claude Gordon method to me, which was new to me. I know it's been around forever. And that approach to practicing your tongue, it really worked for me, practicing through the harmonics versus like the static da 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 da, So the multiple tonguing got better, but oh my goodness, so did my range, my sound, and I track that all back to practicing that multiple tonguing, adding that to my practice.
So I can talk about this stuff for hours.
Yeah.
I find that some people will fatigue faster articulating than slurring.
Oh, I think they do it too much. So what I just described to you was maybe 5 minutes of my practice, 10 at the most.
Articulating. So you just do less work on your articulation.
Before I wasn't doing it at all, because I was so bad at it, and I was avoiding it, which is a mistake. But then when I started actually practicing it diligently, it took 5 to 10 minutes of my practice time. That was it.
Now on your YouTube channel, you get to do a lot of reviews for trumpets, mouthpieces, which I actually watch a lot of your mouthpiece for obvious reasons. I'm always curious, and can you talk to me how that's being able to try all these instruments and mouthpieces, how that's changed you or helped you as a player?
I don't know if it. Well, the reason why I do that is just to have an educated opinion when a student asks me about something. So that's really why I do it. I don't know if it really helps me. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
I don't know if I say it helps me.
I would disagree with you there.
Okay.
And in that I get to play thousands of trombones and trumpets a year.
Okay.
I actually started play testing all of Getson's instruments. This morning I play tested some bugles.
Okay.
3 bugles and a 700 series trumpet. And then I'll also play all the trombones. And the reason I play all these instruments, it's twofold. I want to make sure what we're producing is at the level where it needs to be.
Which, thank you, because I have a great horn, by the way.
And it's also, the more data you have, the more you know what is good versus bad. Or not, I shouldn't say good versus bad, but maybe not consistent. Maybe not, when a player is experiencing some tension in their sound in, say, the low register, and you pick up the horn, you have the same experience.
You know, from that aspect as a teacher, it does help me. I was thinking more as a player, but as a teacher, it is helpful to know what a person is going through. You know what their gear is, and you can remember, I remember what that feels like. And you can give them some advice, try this approach.
And a lot of times, when a person comes in for a fitting, when they're playing, after they're done, they'll bring their instrument and mouthpiece. I'll actually clean their mouthpiece and I'll test their instrument with their mouthpiece because I want to know 100% what they're experiencing at that moment.
That's good. Yeah, that's smart.
Because how many times do you hand your trumpet to somebody, but they put their mouthpiece in?
All the time.
It's now a different equation.
It sure is.
And it's not
even close to
it's
same.
it's not what you're experiencing.
That is so true.
And so I'm a stickler about that. I'll ultrasonic the mouthpiece, clean it with some alcohol, and then I play. And then I'm like, I'll talk to them about what they're experiencing with their instrument, with that relationship. And then from what I've experienced, we'll meet in the middle and then proceed forward.
That's wonderul. That's smart. That's why we come to you.
Well, and there's a lot of that is because people don't have, you're trying a lot of the instruments for your YouTube channel. A lot of people don't get to experience that much. I had a young player here that I was like, how many trombones have you played in your life?
4.
Now they're here. They've made a trip flown out, and they've had 4. That's their entire data sheet. That's not a lot.
Yeah.
That's not a lot. And so a lot of times when they'll fall in love with the first or second because it's so much better than what they're used to.
Yeah.
And so then we'll test, and then we'll continue to play and look for limiters.
That's good. That's good.